right, we're back for another week of picks. We are all mourning and praying and offering our hamstrings up to Christian McCaffrey. Hopefully, he can make a full and speedy recovery. We're at halftime here of the Texans Panthers games, joined by Pete Trana. Pete, what is happening, my friend?
Well, I'm heard about Christian McCaffrey, but as we were talking before, I just hammered this over. Second half over here, 20 and a half. Have to start the pot on fire.
Living the over life. Gotta bet second half overs in the Panthers Texans game.
Hell yeah!
All right. Well, last week, Pete, you went 2-2 on picks. I went 2-1 on player props. Let's get right into it. Let's kick off what we like for week 3. Let's start with the first thing we got here. You got a 6-point teaser. Why don't you break it down for everybody who's listening or watching?
All right, so yes, it's a little less on the teaser here. There's a strategy. It's known as the Wong teaser. I don't know if that's the name of the guy who invented it or what it is. That's what it's called. But it's a 6-point teaser that involves favorites of 7.5 to 8.5, and underdogs of that's negative 7.5, minus 8.5, and underdogs of plus 1.5 and plus 2.5. Since most games are decided by those key numbers, if you can tease them down to fall within that range, it increases your chances of winning substantially. So it works best, really, if you're teasing home favorites, but you could tease a road favorite if it falls into the Wong zone, in my opinion. But all right, so the Browns, the defense, they kind of scare me, and I really could see, especially with Fields in this game, the Bears just putting up 35, but I could also see them putting up 6. Nagy, he scares me with his play calling. He might not put Fields in the best spot. That's why I like teasing this to -1, because I could see them, the Bears covering the -7, +7, but I think the Browns can pull this game off. The only thing that concerns me is that there is some weather. This might be a wind game. And as for the second layer of the teaser, it's the Cardinals. I still think they're overrated. The defense is not great. They let the Vikings score 30 on them, but the Jags are terrible. And that's why I'm okay with teasing the road team in this sense, and in this spot here, to get it down to less than a field goal. The Cards should roll, but I don't completely trust them to roll. That's why I'm doing tease here. And the only thing really I worry about is a West Coast team traveling east. What do you think about that?
I like it. I think I probably like the Cardinals a little more than you do. But I do like the Cardinals to win. I think there's a scenario where the Cardinals do roll and cover easily. But I like both the Cardinals and the Browns to win those games. I do think Justin Fields is the interesting dynamic in that Browns game. So we'll see what happens there. But I do like both those teams to win outright. So I feel pretty good about Browns -1 and Cardinals -1.5.
Yeah, and with the Fields thing, is like I could see him putting up 35, but I could see the Browns, matching them score for score too. So
Yeah,
I think that'll be a close game regardless.
All right, second up here, we got Tampa Bay at the Rams. What do you like in that one?
I love the Bucks in this spot, man.
Besides everything about this game.
This is one of the better games of the week, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So a couple things here. I think the market is overreacting on multiple fronts here. The Rams defense, while it's good, I don't think you're getting last year's defense. And Matt Stafford, I love Matt Stafford, and he's good, but he's being talked about on like a different stratosphere right now, and I don't think he's that guy. And the Bucks, last week they kind of let the Falcons hang around, and I don't think that game was like a super watched game. It was kind of in the middle of a bunch of games, and so it looked like a Bucks blowout, but they kind of let the Falcons hang in there. But in my opinion, this is the last time we're going to see the Bucks as a sub 3-point favorite. I scored this 33-30 Tampa. I power rank these teams as at least 3.5 points apart. So my numbers match what I see on the field. It's almost an into play. Tom Brady is on a mission again. The only thing that kind of scares me is the JPP injury. What do you think?
I agree. I think what you said about the Rams defense is a great point. I think that they're still kind of I don't think it's a bad defense at all. I think they're a good defense who is still getting last year's bump, like early on in the
Right.
season, like hasn't really corrected itself to what it actually is. And there's a lot of really good players on that defense, but
Big
I
names.
just, yeah, yeah, I just can't. The Bucks are set out to, I think, try and like foot on the gas, destroy as many people as they can. Um, I think I'm surprised that this isn't a bigger spread. Like I'm surprised it's not Bucks minus 3.5. So Bucks minus 1.5. I like the Bucks to cover. I think it's going to be a great game though, and I didn't look at it, but I'll take the over. I don't even care what it is.
Yeah, I think. Let me look here. I think it might be 56, hovering around that number.
Let's go over just for fun.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, and this game, dude, if on Sunday, this is like another tip. Not a tip, but everybody knows this. But I mean, like, if you get the lines early, like on Sunday, this was Tampa Bay +1, like Sunday night, like
Yeah,
when the lines first opened. Like that's insane.
crazy, absolutely crazy. All right, third up here we have Green Bay at San Francisco. What do you think about this one? I'm a little shocked with where this one's at, but you go ahead.
Yeah, this opened at 4, it dropped a little. I think it's probably at 3 now. You could probably get an expensive 3.5 here if you wanted to back the Packers like I did. But this is another game where I feel like the market is overreacting a little bit, mostly to the past, especially specifically the playoffs. You know, Green Bay's performances in San Francisco. I also think, again, I like Shanahan, but I think he gets a little bit too much credit sometimes, and it affects bettors. Um, I cannot in any way though score this game as the Niners as a 3.5 point favorite.
I don't even get it. Like I don't. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm like a little bit lost on. Like
Yeah.
I thought when I looked at the slide again, I was like, maybe I typed it wrong.
Yeah, dude. I mean, they're a good team and home field, but I mean home field advantage is not what it used to be, in my opinion. I don't like Jimmy G. I don't like the Niners running backs injuries. I don't like who the 49ers are trotting out there on at cornerback. If you've ever looked at their depth chart, it's gross. Um, I still don't even understand that the 49ers playing Jimmy as well, like, especially after mortgaging everything to get Trey. You know, they're a win now team. So, if the Packers, defense is not great, so that's a little scary. But if I'm picking matchups, and I'm taking Rodgers versus the Niners secondary versus, Jimmy G and a suspect Packers defense, like I'm gonna take Rodgers in that. That's like, I also think Philly should have probably beaten the Niners last week. So I don't see a way where Jimmy G can go score for score with Rodgers, especially if the Packers go up early. I score this game 26-24 Green Bay.
I don't know. I hadn't looked at it initially, and I was surprised that it was the Packers getting 3.5 points. It feels weird. I agree. I think that it almost feels too easy, which probably means I'm missing something. But yeah, I wish I could say something kind of to be a little more contrarian from what your points were, but I love Packers plus 3.5. I think they win the game. So I love the plus 3.5. And the last one you got here, Seattle at Minnesota. Tell me what you think about that one.
All right. Well, last week the Seahawks freaking ripped my heart out of my chest, turning a 3-1 week into a 2-2 week. Um, they covered the spread for almost the whole game, and then they let the lousy Titans just rush back into the game with the most obvious of Titans game plan. They just fed Derrick Henry.
Titan.
And it worked for Tennessee, man. It just kills me. I mean, there was some bad,
35 carries in that game. Absolutely ridiculous.
And there was some bad officiating in that game, but Seattle blew that game, so don't get it wrong. So when I first looked at this game, it was almost like I crossed it out. I was like instant pass. Especially because last week the Vikings, they got me a little cheap cover, so I'm like, dude, maybe I should stay away from these two teams. But I power ranked the Seahawks almost 2.5 points better than the Vikings, and I know the Seahawks, they're addicted to playing these close games, so that does scare me a bit. Like they'll never step on a team's throat, it feels like. I would feel a lot worse if this line was above 3.5, but at 1.5, I'm taking the better team. I wouldn't hate taking the money line either if you're seeing it under, negative 130. Cook is dinged up, and the Vikings defense thinks out loud, man. This is a classic Seattle field goal or less win. Go Hawks.
I'd like the other side in this one. I do.
Yeah.
If it was Seahawks at home, I like the Seahawks to win outright and cover. On the road, I don't know. I just think Minnesota probably tries to feed Dalvin Cook, even though he's limping around and a little bit banged up. But we're due for that. And I hate to ever say we're due because it's such like a cop-out thing. But the Justin Jefferson game's coming. And I just think we're due for that game where Minnesota, their defense isn't great, but where the offense really kind of explodes through the passing game, where Kirk kind of performs better than we think, and Justin Jefferson explodes for 150, 160 yards. So I think this one's close. I think the line makes sense, but yeah. I like I'll take the Minnesota side in that one.
Yeah, and the over is a nice little play too here, especially if Seattle's up in early, like in the first half. I could see the Vikings coming back with the vengeance, tossing, and easily sailing over the total.
Absolutely. Let's get into player props. Let's get into some of these player props. So I got 3 props again that I like this week here. First one, Saquon Barkley over 61.5 rushing yards. And these were all 3 earlier today on DraftKings Sportsbook, so earlier on Thursday. Saquon over 61.5 rushing yards. I think he's in an absolute get right spot against Atlanta. I think Atlanta is trash. I think the defense isn't good. And I could see them losing that game to the Giants pretty easily. And I think Barkley is due for that big kind of Saquon Barkley performance, 100 plus yards on the ground. I think he goes over 61.5 fairly easily. Hollywood Brown is the second one. Marquise Brown over 58.5 receiving yards. Hollywood has looked the best he's ever looked in his professional career over the last couple weeks. He looks settled into the passing game running through him. He led the team in targets last week. I think he's going to continue to kind of be featured there in that passing game. And I think he kind of cruises past 58.5 either. I'm surprised that's not low 70s. Would have made me think about it a little bit more, but I think 58.5 I feel really good about. And Tom Brady, we talked about this game already a little bit, but over 2.5 passing touchdowns because Tom Brady is Tom Brady, and he's clearly trying to get the passing touchdowns record. He's not going to slow up at any point in time. He is going to throw multiple touchdowns easily. I think he throws another 3 or 4 touchdowns in this one. So give me your thoughts on those 3 if you have the same or differing opinions on any of them.
Yeah, I mean, I love everything you said about the Saquon prop. He had that big run last week, and then he got, stuffed a little bit for the rest of the game. But I agree with you. I think that should be 10, 15 yards higher. So I love that play. Marquise Brown, I like him. I like his game. I like the Ravens. I just don't. And this is just to be really contrarian because I don't hate that number. That's a pretty reasonable number. But that one is the one that worries me a little bit just because of the way the Ravens play. But sure. I love the Tom Brady over. We spoke about this earlier. Like you said, he's going for that. It's so obvious that he's going for that record. So
I legitimately might take Tom Brady over passing touchdown props every week for the rest of the season.
It might be worth looking at an Alta over a plus 3.5 touchdowns, something ridiculous because he's going for it.
He clearly is. He's gonna keep chucking the ball. All right, that's it. We got 7 winners. 7 winners, baby.
Easy money. Let's get on the winning side this week. 4-4 for the year for me. We're right there.
We got it this week. Pete, I appreciate you joining the show. We'll get back to watching the second half of this game. I hope that second half over hits for you. Let's go, Davis Mills, baby. Come on.
Let's go, Tutty.
All right, Pete. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for having me, man.